All right, this week on AIS, we have Brian Diamond. Brian Diamond's an entrepreneur, fellow contractor, also has Contractor Life Academy, which is a coaching group, a very knowledgeable group for contractors out there. And with that, Brian, give us a little introduction about yourself, how you came to be, and thanks for coming on today.
What's up, man? Thanks for reaching out and getting me on the podcast. It's a great pleasure. So my name is Brian Diamond. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. I've got 2 kids. We're in the process of adopting a third. Super excited about that. Nice. I've been in the industry about 21 years now, working mostly in home improvement. Later in life, we started an interior remodeling company for bath conversions. So that was great to get inside the house and start working there. Most of my stuff has been really process driven. So I've worked in generally every aspect of home improvement you can, from knocking on doors, canvassing, working in a call center, marketing manager, production manager, sales manager, operations manager, and just enjoyed learning all the microcosm, the puzzle pieces that go together in making a business successful. And initially, I didn't start out in the industry with a desire to be a home improvement or a remodeling guy. I went to school to be a teacher. I wanted to teach kindergarten, and I just love those little light bulb moments that kids get when they learn something new. And so, here we are 20 years later with the Contractor Life Academy, which is kind of this amalgamation of both of those things. It's this industry that I've been in and that I love for the past 20 years, but it's still that passion for teaching and educating and watching people grow and learn new things. And so I'm kind of in this just great space right now, and we're having a lot of fun with it.
Great. Yeah, I did not know that you went to school to be a teacher.
Yeah, kindergarten, I was going to teach K through 12, man. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it is like similar capacity, what you're doing now, just teaching grown men and grown women. So when did Contractor Life Academy start, and what's the mission of Contractor Life Academy?
Yeah. So last year, we're in 2023. So it was really a 2021 thing. I just been, with COVID coming out, a lot of groups kind of popped up and people were searching for ways to kind of navigate what that looked like. And in that, I really enjoyed getting into the DMs and getting into the comments and helping people come up with solutions. And natively, just people started reaching out to me for kind of that deeper level knowledge or execution points, right? We can always talk about the high level, know your numbers and know your worth and, all of the rah-rah chanty kind of stuff. But when it comes down to actually executing and putting something in place and bolting it onto your business, that's a little more complicated sometimes. So there came a point where it was becoming overwhelming. I was spending most of my time at the office talking to contractors and in DMs, and there came a point where I'm like, look, I've got to provide these guys with some way to be able to get some education and some training and some learning and to be able to bolt it on. So I started doing videos and just recording screen shares and sending documents. And I'm like, I got to get a platform to house this. And so I came up with an academy, just an online portal that people could come in and learn anywhere from just understanding your why and, what you're really desiring from your business to running your business by the books, production management, leadership, recruiting, hiring, whether it's building marketing plans or sales plans, how to lead a sales team, how to scale a sales team. So it's been great because now people have this resource that they can go to, and it's kind of self-taught, right? You're working through it on your own pace. And from that, people were like, look, I have things that are unique to my business. The academy is great, but I need a little bit more specific help and situational kind of things. And so we started doing one-on-one coaching, and now we're moving into masterminds. So it's been this kind of morphosis of things that have happened as there's more need in the community. We stand the things up that's necessary to make sure that needs met, much like building a business, right? We find out what the client needs are, and we continue to strive to make that process better. And so that's what we're doing right now. And again, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, you guys provide a great solution to a problem many contractors have, So yeah, I think it's a very, very, very good program you guys have. And I love the Calls on Friday that I'm a part of.
Now I've heard such good things from you, from guys that get a lot from your participation and being a part of that. So, and it's free, right? The beautiful thing about it is anybody can show up and pop in and ask a question or get something. They don't even have to ask anything. Just glean some good nuggets and bolt them onto your business and make it better, right? So,
and we talk about so much stuff. Like last week, we talked about lawsuits, and we talked about like client experience, and then production, and so like it's just everything. If anyone has a problem, they hop in, ask a question, and you have a lot of good people in there, with some bright ideas.
Yeah, thanks for hopping in on those. It's awesome.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I love it. With your previous experience, I know one conversation we had, you were basically going multi-market with this company. You were opening different locations. Now, with that, you do have to dabble into a bunch of different kind of really industry specific talents, like from sales, from multi-market marketing, operations, how to scale something that's very teachable, repeatable, and valuable to the customers. How do you feel that experience has really set you up to help these contractors in a single market just getting on their feet?
Well, I think it's because I've held really almost every position outside of just being on the tools for any length of time. I understand the microcosm of, the totality of how all these different pillars of the business work together. Usually when guys get into the industry, they're production guys, right? They're trades guys. And so they come in and they're like, I know how to build stuff and I'm great at it and people are going to pay me well for it. But then they don't understand how to actually market their talents or how to sell at a price point that helps them be profitable and earn a decent living. Then you get the sales guys that come in and they're like, man, I can market and I can sell, and they get all this stuff in production. And then they don't know how to find the right trades guys, and they're producing subpar work and their business is struggling and reviews are terrible. Mm-hmm. So having this experience of building out offices in multiple markets and understanding how it's like a ripple effect. What sounds really good in sales is a complete crap show for production. And vice versa, right? So now I can help guys navigate, like, here's your strength, and that sounds really good what you'd like to do. However, consider what the impact is going to be 2 or 3 steps down the line. And if you still make that choice, then let's figure out how to keep that from being a tsunami and just make it a little bit of a ripple. Yeah. Right. So that's the puzzle piece. That's the most fun for me anyway. Right.
It's like every business. I think Eddie and I talked about this on one of our podcasts with, like, marketing is telling your ideal customer what you're about, what problem you can solve for that person. Basically, in all facets, like your brand, your core values, previous work, before and afters, customer testimonial. Like, there's a whole different thing with marketing. And then sales reaffirms what your marketing is saying you're going to do and how you're going to solve this problem. And then operations needs to execute on the expectations that were sold, that was set by marketing. And that was like when we first started, man, that was something that we had to under promise and over deliver, because you can't tell a homeowner it's going to be rainbows and sunshine. Right. And then, you get to the job and it's like, oh yeah, we forgot to tell you, you're not going to have, central heat and air for 2 weeks. Sorry about that.
The challenge is that we end up building for newer guys that don't have a lot of staff and they're learning things along the way. Sometimes we end up building a lot of that off the backs of our clients. Mm-hmm. Right. And there was a time in our production side of the business where we literally did not have a satisfied client. The project got done exactly as how it's stated on the contract. The journey was something we were really struggling through. And it was a matter of understanding, getting the right process in place and what that journey really looked like. And who did we have in the mechanism to be able to execute it the correct way and be passionate about it. And so when we retarget and dig back into our database, we literally skip that little chunk of time. We put a little filter in there that says, do not call anybody in this period, because we know what the outcome's going to be. They're going to be not happy, right? They're going to relive that time and place. So yeah, it's consistency, brand consistency, right? That's what it is. What we say from the moment that you hit our website and what that journey looks like to the time that you leave us the review has to be consistent. And if it's not, it makes people wonder, like, oh gosh, what I get myself into,
Yeah. And is that an issue you're seeing with most contractors that are kind of, I feel like everyone gets kind of stalled, like right before they hit that 7-figure mark, or even like low 7 figures. Like you're in like this influx of, okay, I really need to do something or put someone or something in place to get me to the next level or make me more efficient. Is that one of the core issues you're seeing with most contractors, is really the customer experience and the journey for that customer being consistent?
Yeah, because they're taking everything and they're inner focused, right? All the focus is on us and is on the business and on our staff. And if we can, that's one of the things I was talking to that about my men's group this morning at church, and is getting clients to focus outwardly on who are we as contractors? Like, what's our pure core driver? And for us, we just want to help people make a good qualified decision for the right contractor. It doesn't necessarily have to be us. But if we can walk away from that conversation and know, you know what, we took our time, our talent, and our treasures, we showed up at their doorstep, we helped them navigate all the fears and apprehensions they have, find a solution that makes sense to them, and then get the right person in place to make that happen. If it's not us, we still did a good job. Like, high five, we can celebrate that. But the contractors so often are just so dialed into, well, what do I do next? And how do I solve this problem? And why do I feel this way? And how do I get this nasty feeling of not being adequate enough or not figuring this out or not making enough money? And they struggle with that. And that's what part of what we do is try to get people to elevate and see above the situations that they're in and be able to take a step back and say, you know what, at the end of the day, you're all right, man. Like, this is just part of the gig, right? This is how you build a business. So let's keep moving. Yeah.
And that's why there's, guys like yourself out there, because people don't know what they don't know. It seems silly to say that, but you really don't know.
There's nothing wrong with it. Like, it's okay. Like, these are things that you just never have had to have experience. You don't know how to be a leader because you've never had to be a leader. So don't worry about it, right? There's learning that happens, and you're going to screw it up a couple times. People are going to quit, and they're going to throw you the bird, and they're going to roll out. And guess what? You're going to learn from it, and you'll be better next time. It's okay.
I was listening to a podcast, I think yesterday, and they talked about almost like the food pyramid, when they have all these breads and stuff down at the bottom. They need to revamp that, by the way. But they were talking about this in like essence of their company, and how at the top it has to be the core of their business. So I guess at the bottom has to be the customer, right? And if you're doing everything that is customer oriented, customer experience focused, everything else, it doesn't matter if it goes wrong in ways, because things are going to break, right? Automations break, you have to duct tape it, processes fail, and you have to revise them. That's just going to happen as you grow. But as long as the customer is taken care of and reputation is maintained, everything else is going to be okay. And that was one of the big focal points when we started, was we know it's not going to be perfect, but as long as we stand behind the customer and the customer experience and what we said we're going to do and just give great quality, everything else will fall in place. And we haven't had a bad review yet due to that kind of, because I know a lot of contractors and there are just crazy homeowners. Like, that's just the reality.
That's
like, there are crazy people out there,
We could spend a whole podcast on that alone, right?
I have some stories and some lawsuits I could share with you. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're taking care of your customer, you're doing better than most.
We call it like having a go-giver attitude, right? Like, there's a thing that's out there in the community now about, not showing up to a client's home unless they're willing to give you a deposit, or they're almost making a mini commitment to get on contract before you even come out. And so we call that go-getters. And a go-getter says, I'm not willing to go unless I believe I'm going to get something in return. And so we really focus on being go-givers, right? We have a lot of industry experience. We know what good and bad contractors look like. We know what a good and bad experience looks like. We know what reasonable pricing within the marketplace looks like. We do this thousands of times, and this client may have never, ever done it, period. Right. And some are a little more seasoned. But if we can be go-givers and go show up and give of our industry knowledge and our time and our attention, the universe, we believe, is going to pay us back. Right. We're going to get some benefit from that. And you're going to win ultimately at the end of the day. It's tough because guys are working on the tools. They're still figuring out who their first hire is, how to navigate all these appointments that are coming in. So there is some benefit of being a little bit choosy of who you go to see. But at the end of the day, you got to be willing to give.
Gosh, right? I feel like that's the toughest part when I look back. When I was still on tools the first 2 or 3 months of KHB, and doing sales and ordering and scheduling and,
losing your brain. Yeah.
Losing my mind. Luckily I have a great business partner that helped in a lot of this too. But that's the toughest part, is just getting off the tools. And with that, let's say, you're talking to me and I'm doing 250,000 a year. I'm looking to scale my business to 7+ figures. What would be your first piece of advice? Is it get off the tools and put someone in place that you can manage? Is it outsource marketing and have a call center and go on qualified appointments? Like, what would your guidance be to that person?
The first one for me is always get a clear understanding of how much money this company needs to ship you at the end of the day, right? If our companies aren't profitable and aren't providing us with a lifestyle that we believe our families deserve and providing for a financial future, we're not going to stay in that business too long. Right. So once we understand what that is, then there has to be a budget that's set. We have to have a set of executables. But what I always suggest is price. First thing I say, price as if you are paying somebody to do the work that you're doing and to pay yourself. Mm-hmm. What would that look like? Because most of the time guys are pricing for their labor rate. I talked to a guy the other day. He's pricing out $50 an hour for his labor. He's a guy here in my hometown, and we met for lunch. And I said, brother, you got to price yourself out at $100, $125, $150 an hour. And he goes, that's absolutely crazy. Why, how, what? It just blew his mind. And I said, because you got to pay a guy to come do the work that you're doing, $35 an hour, so he can at least start building a team. But you still have to pay yourself that $50 an hour to feed your family. Mm-hmm. Right. So when you start putting all these numbers together, it's understanding, what do I have to charge as if I had all of these people in place? The next one is, how do you get these menial tasks out of your way? If you love production, that's fine. You can still be involved in production, but I always tell guys, sub out. If you can, sub out the work, or find one or two guys that can come in and do it, price adequately, get them paid. Lift yourself out of production, and then hire an admin is the next move. And that admin is going to take in those phone calls to make sure you're capitalizing on all the leads. They're going to pre-qualify the leads to make sure that you're showing up at people that have a chance of getting onto your production calendar. They're making sure that nothing is getting left behind when it comes to attending to the existing clients that you currently have. Get somebody to help you with some of the administrative tasks, so now you can start to lead from above the trees as opposed to just being in there digging ditches and getting in the dirt, right? It's a little bit tough.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Especially, you think you could have done it if you look back? And how did you guys end up? Did you have a partner right out the rip? How'd that work?
I did.
Do you think if you went back and had to do it on your own, what would be different?
We definitely couldn't have scaled as fast. Yeah, because we did divvy up responsibilities, like core responsibilities of the business, where I took on sales, marketing, design. Okay. He took over pretty much project management and finance.
Would you recommend people look for a partner right off the bat? Like finds like a right-hand dude. I think most of us usually have industry friends, right? Would you suggest doing that? Or do you think, maybe that's not quite for everyone?
I don't think it's for everyone. I think it takes an extreme amount of discipline and humility to have a quality partnership. Just like in a marriage, right? It is a marriage. Actually, I see my business partner more than I see my wife and kids. Right?
Facts.
Now with him and I, we've had a very open and transparent relationship. Like from the bat, we've been friends 10+ years. I could tell him what's on my mind and he can tell me what's on his, and we can have very raw, honest communication. Which, I mean, you're a married man, something happens, you don't speak up, it festers, it grows, and then it turns into this resentment, and you can't have that. And most people in partnerships, I think that's the root issue of them failing, is resentment, greed, pride, arrogance.
Trust too. Like if you guys have been friends for a while and you're real, transparent and authentic with each other, you can believe that that person's got your back, and what they say is what they say, and what it is what it is. And it's,
you have to trust that, because that's all you got is their word and previous actions. So yeah, it's never easy. So if someone was just starting out, I would say probably a partnership is not for you. Unless you have one, like a shotgun clause in your articles of incorporation, and you have a very lined out set of deliverables for each party's role in the company, something that's measurable for each other. So you never feel like you're doing more than the other type of thing.
I've had a couple partnership opportunities, and I found that we were too much of a similar type of person. Our skill sets were very similar. Our personalities were very similar. And I felt, for me personally, and you can kind of speak to this, whether you think it has weight or not, but if I'm going to bring a partner on, I want somebody who's a complement to me, who's kind of that opposite personality. I'm more of a visionary, so is he. And I really would want to partner with an integrator, somebody that can implement and execute, right?
Yeah, and that's actually one of our strengths. Is I'm the same thing. I'm a more of a visionary, creator type, and then he is more nuts and bolts. You know, we always talk about I'm gray, he's black and white. It's kind of how our personalities are. So there are a lot of things that play into it, and then it's never an issue until oftentimes when money starts getting involved, right? Because you start seeing, you know. Obviously, we're paying ourselves decent salaries here, and you're like, well, and I've told him this, and we've had this conversation. I'm like, you know, it'd be real nice if your salary was a part of mine, you know, like and vice versa. Right. You know, it'd be real nice to take home that check.
That's right. Month. We want that. We want that check. But that's the interesting thing, right? It's when money starts to become, and I think that's with most anybody. Or I was talking to a guy the other day, and he was kind of stressed up about cash flow. You know, and the conversation was, don't let your cash flow start to get you off your square and how you typically would make decisions, right? Don't let that start to affect your headspace. So now you start going in directions that you normally wouldn't go in. And once we kind of work through some processes, some ways to forecast cash flow, we realize, you know, my problem is today, but it's not going to be tomorrow and next week and next month. Like, bro, you're good. Yeah. Right. So partnerships are huge on that.
Yeah, never jeopardize your integrity or your character for existential crises. And as far as like with cash flow, for example, too, I mean, it is all like money's important. Obviously, like money keeps the world spinning. It keeps your business alive. It keeps you know, families fed. But money can't be your God into your business. You have to have a deeper root and a deeper foundation of your why. Like your why has to be very important. Like for me, I'm raising 3 young men at home, right? I need to be a great character and inspiration for my sons on who to be as a man. How do you handle situations? How do you treat employees? How do you build a culture that people want to be a part of? And, you know, all these different aspects. I want my kids to see that. I don't want them to see like, well, dad bought a new truck. You know, I want to be an entrepreneur. He can buy cool stuff. Like that stuff's not important. I mean, it's a residual, you know, effect of being successful. But it can't be the root of why you want to be successful, in my opinion.
Yeah. And that's so good. That's so, and that's a vibe I've kind of been on this week is, I'm a very process driven guy, right? I believe in processes and measurables, deliverables, accountabilities, outcomes, right? Lead measures, lag measures, all that stuff. We can geek out on that the rest of the time here. One of the things let's talk about a journey that I'm on to be more fit, right? Most people, if they pick up a little extra weight or they're feeling like they're kind of not moving like there you go, bro. Right. Yeah. All this is for me is just an acknowledgement that we're living well in a down economy, right? We can afford to get a rib dinner if we want. But the reality is, so let's talk about, you can reduce the amount of calories. So, you know, burn more calories than you're taking in, show up to the gym every day, make good, healthy choices, et cetera, et cetera. And then the outcome is going to be, you're going to watch the scale go down. You're going to watch your body transform. You're going to feel better. Okay. Process outcome. The reality is that people genuinely aren't consistent. And it's the same thing for business. We know what works, right? Retargeting past clients, reaching out, making sure we're getting reviews and referrals, but it's the consistency and doing it continually that is the challenging part for most of us that are building a business, right? And it was for me on the fitness thing, right? It's like, well, I mean, I've got a lot to do. I won't hit the gym today. You know what? It's only a 3 rib dinner. It's not a full rack. So it's like, it's better than nothing, right? And what I had to realize is I had to change my mindset to be, I am going to choose to be, as an internal core value, a healthy person. And when I decide that I'm going to be a healthy person, what happens is the desires to make the right choices become easier. Now it's not, I'm not making the right choice because it's a process to get an outcome. It's I'm going to grab an apple because I'm choosing to be a healthy person. and live a healthy lifestyle. And then I went even deeper and thought, well, why is having a healthy lifestyle important to me? Because at the end of the day, I love ribs. I love ice cream. I love barbecue chips. I love a cold soda, right? I love all that stuff. And it was because we're in the process of adopting our adopted son's half brother, who's a year old. I'm 48. So when Miles turns into an adult and he's getting ready to go to college, the person walking around a campus is going to say, you know what, Miles, it's so great that you decided to bring your grandpa on this campus visit today. I'll be 68 years old when Miles is 20. Right. Well, I want to make sure that I'm there for him and able to play with him when he's in, his, 10 years old, 12 years old. He wants to go throw the ball around or whatever. I'm still going to be 60 years old, and I want to make sure I'm in the best shape possible. And I'm around to see these things that happen in his life. I can't do that if I'm not a healthy person.
And once again, there's your purpose of being healthy is way greater than a vanity metric, right?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
There's a deep root of why you want to make a change.
So, so when you think about going back to the business side, right, you talked about being a father and being all these things from the business perspective and the moves that you're making with KHB and the partnerships that you're forming and wanting to get into other markets. How you identify as an individual and what your why is and your purpose, how does that drive these decisions that you're making?
It's conflicting. It's tough because there is a certain demand when you're trying to execute a vision that I have that is just the bare requirement, right? Mm-hmm. I think, I mentioned that I'm often up at 3:30, 4 in the morning in the office, 4:30, right? Now you have to make sacrifices and to be able to get where you want to go. And I've thought about this long and hard recently because we just closed on a home, right? We just purchased 17 acres locally here in Turlock with a house that I have to gut, right? So I'm going to be working every day after work until the sun goes down every 7 days a week, most likely. And it kind of got me thinking about just that, we're going multi-market to Dublin. We acquired a flooring company. We're looking at acquiring another company to try to vertically integrate a little bit farther. And it does get to a point where you think, when is enough, right? And what am I prioritizing here? Is it truthfully, am I just trying to put some middle fingers up to my market and just say, hey, I'm big hoss around here, you got to come through me? Or is there a bigger why? And I think I'm still working through some of that as well. I don't think I have a conclusion. I know what my weaknesses are. I have issues with authority. I have, which is the root of a lot of things in my life. So by doing the things I'm doing, am I doing this strictly out of a strength move? Or is this truthfully for, let's say changing a generational legacy in my family, setting up my kids, setting up their kids, and trying to make some generational changes in my family tree that, no one has done thus far, which I like to think that is my purpose. But outside looking in, I'm sure a lot of people could say a lot of things with some decisions I've made.
Yeah. And I think it's always a genesis, right? We're always changing as individuals, right? Who I am today is not the person that my wife married 17 years ago. She's not the same individual by any means. I'm always so inspired and impressed by the things that she continues to press into, even just in the last month. And looking back, I would have never imagined that she would even be taking on some of the things that she's super passionate and excited about. And so there's always this season of what is our why? And I think it's, talking on that topic, it's okay to go back. It's like a living document. So I have all my clients, we literally have them write that out. We have them do a painted picture and write it out and put it in places that they can continually see it to remind themselves, are the decisions I'm making today going to get me closer to what I desire? Mm-hmm. And I tell them, sometimes that's just not going to align anymore. It's okay to go back and make a few adjustments and changes.
And it's healthy to question yourself on that stuff too. You should always be questioning your motives. I think you always need to be going back and really in the frame of mind you're in, right? Because there's times there's still on my board, October 31st, 2022, I declared war right, on our market.
Nice.
I literally put, this is wartime CEO coming in place and it's slitting throat season. Like, we're going to go take over, raid and pillage, and that
I'm really tempted to tell you to give me a war face right now. I'm gonna let it go.
I shaved my beard. I can't.
No more war face with the clean shave. Yeah.
But, and when I was in that frame of mind, some external factors happened that, we were in an inflection point where we had to make a call, whether we are happy with where we're at or we are not moving towards our mission. We're not moving forward to complete what we set out to do with our vision. And that was the call I made. Right. And then shortly thereafter, our sales team quit and, some more adversity happened, which was good. Right. Because it's burn the boats. And you're either going to fight or you're going to go sink. Pick your boat, So went full Cortez on them. Yeah. So I do think it is healthy to go back and question your why and question your vision and the motives behind that vision. Because most of the time you go into entrepreneurship or contracting because you think you can do it better than someone else can, right?
Oh, of
you
course.
Think that you have the solution to your market's problem. Essentially, that's why you started business.
Little chip on your shoulder, right? Somebody talked bad about you, did something you didn't like, right? It's time to go prove them wrong, right?
In a way, yeah. There's always selfish intentions, but I think you need to question yourself at all times. Keep yourself in check. Make sure you're not a tyrant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah. Even doing this here. Some people have encouraged me like, hey, you got to blow this thing up. And, you can have hundreds of people coming into the program and doing all of this. And I said, that may be a thing. And I can see that. I think we have the potential for that. But at this moment in time, I never want to not know what's going on in the life of the people that are in our group. Mm-hmm. I never want to, wonder, well, who is that again? And what's their name? What do they do? That's not where I'm at right now. I'm thoroughly enjoying having a deeper level connection and understanding and being able to, I was talking to a guy the other day. At one point I had 40 sales guys and I was working 20 hours a week from home, making great money. And people said, how do you run 40 sales guys work 20 hours a week when you're jammies? And I said, they already understood the sales process. That wasn't the hard thing. Like they got it. We continually poured into them on that end. It's just having a relationship with people to help them navigate life to the point that it doesn't affect their ability to go out and do what they need to do. Mm-hmm. So literally just making sure I checked in with people every single week. Hey, Ryan, what's up, man? How are you? How is everything? How are the kids? How'd the graduation go? Did that date night with your wife kind of turn some things around for you guys? And that connection with people. And what I found also is that it built a community of people interested in showing up for each other. And I think that's where the first point I really learned about the leadership component of building culture and building a team of people that are dedicated to the team. And because of that, the rest of the executables are going to get taken care of. Mm.
Yeah, you put people first and good things happen.
100%, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. What's next for you? So your multiple markets you guys were talking about as well, right? What's your plans for KHB? You got the flooring company. How's that going? Yeah.
Our goal is to get as vertical as possible to control our cost to consumers. So like when any business, there's the Amazon effect or there's the boutique, right? You're paying more at the boutique, but you're getting a different type of service.
Yeah.
Amazon might be the same product, might be a little bit faster. And definitely oftentimes cheaper. So I'm trying to figure out, we built an internal franchise model. From what I know, there's only one other company that's doing something like this, Alaire Homes. They were featured in Pro Remodeler, but very similar model. And we're essentially going to take a different approach to where instead of doing basically someone buys our business model, starts the franchise up and we get, royalties or whatever it may be. We're going to do either grassroots or strategic acquisitions around key service areas. So we might have, 4 to 6 locations in a 90-mile area where we would serve just out of one area, but then we could flex manpower. We could have every single subtrade in-house from demolition all the way to finished carpentry, paint, interior, exterior. And really just control the process altogether. Because the only issues we've ever had is working with other people. Truthfully, we have a good group of subs that we flex on. They do great quality work. But at the end of the day, they have their own schedule. They have their own profit margins they need to meet. They have their own internal issues, just like every business.
And we're still
does.
subject to their schedules to a certain degree, right? Like, yeah.
Yep. I hate being at other people's mercy. Maybe it's the authority thing in me, right? But
there you go.
So we already self-perform a lot of work from electrical, plumbing, carpentry, demo, drywall, paint. But we do outsource a lot of this stuff too. So we got the flooring company doing paint next. We're actually starting that June, I believe. We'll have our license and everything starting to get built out. We're going to have a new website, the whole 9 yards. And the idea, like the long-term goal, like my vision that I built, 3 years ago or so, is like 60,000 square foot warehouse that is essentially everything kitchen, home, and bath. Every department runs out of there. We have a slab showroom, tile showroom, kitchens, baths, cabinetry, everything runs. It's the heartbeat of the Central Valley remodeling space in California, and surrounding areas. And so that's when we get there, I think I'd be satisfied. And that's about, yeah. I mean, that's
sometimes we're built a little bit different, man. My wife says, there's never going to be enough. There's never going to be a thing where you're like, all right, I'm good. Right. So that's why I wonder if
I'd have to replace myself. Yeah. I would have to I'll still definitely be a part of the company, but like install a CEO and I need to, step out because I probably won't stop. And I really don't see like that. I think that could happen in the next 5-10 years.
Yeah. That'd be super cool, man.
Yeah. So
I don't think there's anything like that. Definitely out in your area, right?
No, not really anywhere. I mean, you have like the Floor and Decors, you have the Bedrosian, you have the independent, franchises and boutiques, but there's nothing that's all encompassing, just a mecca. There's no mecca for home improvement. So I think it'd be pretty cool. I don't think anyone else has done it. And I think it's pretty fluid. So we can easily go multi-market with the processes we already built out. Now Dublin, it's about hour and a half away from us. And right now it's operating as a satellite location. It will be fully staffed within the next six to 9 months. And that's gonna be the first big test to see really how repeatable our processes are, how teachable. We're gonna be installing a certain individual into our company at our home base to see how well this thing runs without us here. We're obviously still going to be here, but yeah, we're going to do some A/B testing and hopefully work out the kinks before we try to take over the world.
Well, I think that, guys get, especially smaller guys that are newer to the industry and trying to build a business, is they're afraid. I hear it all the time. I'm afraid to hire my first guy. I really just don't know what to do. I'm afraid to do this or that. And sometimes you just got to do it. Like the learning comes from the iteration part.
It's true.
So you got to go iterate, right? We can't think about all the things that are going to happen. We just got to go out there and let them happen and then keep moving. Of course, I'm a planner, right? I like to have everything sketched out as much as I can before I even jump into anything.
Calculated risk.
Yeah, I'm definitely a calculator risk dude. And my buddy, AJ, he's a doer. He's like, we'll figure that out. I'm going to buy some land down in Florida. I'm going to build a house on it. AJ, you've never built a house. Don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. Right. And guess what? He's got a house going up. And so I always have to applaud this ability to, burn the boats, man, and just get out there and figure it out. So I applaud the idea that, and you are taking, getting it done, setting the person out there like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to do this thing. We're going to shoot a person out there and see how it goes, but always be able to be in the back and
it's not leaving people out to dry. And I think when we talked about, the pricing side, if we were to give advice to someone just starting out, pricing with the end in mind, like with KHB, I don't think we've really raised our price in 2 years. Right. Even when there was 5 employees, it's the same price as when we're around 20.
Well, I have to imagine you started pricing out as if you were already operating a business of the size that you are in the infrastructure, right? The same thing here. Which
takes a clear vision, a clear overhead allocation, a clear budget, right? To reverse engineer, how much I need to charge over each working day. What's the market going to bear? And how many jobs do I need to run to be competitive, right? Yep. How many jobs you need to run? So that's what we did. And that's how we were able to scale so quickly, was because, instead of charging $50 an hour for myself in the field, we're charging $175, and we're accounting for the project manager we don't have yet, the superintendent we don't have yet, the designer, the admin, we have all those people built in already. into that price point, and then we just squirreled cash away. And I think the first few hires that we brought on, we had their salary in the bank, right? Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't like this big scary thing. It was like, yeah, we want you, we want you, we want you. Here's your SOPs. Here's the upcoming projects. We're going to train with you for, we'll be at your side for as long as you need us to be. But yeah, this is your job now. So
I think you remember that call where I showed that business plan that I had. I laid out.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. That's that same thing, right? I had that 3-year projection of what my org chart would look like in 3 years, knew kind of compensation wise, what my expectation was for having those people in place. And then, so when I priced literally my first job, it was priced as if I had that overhead and I was operating from that financial position. And then what it told me is, how many jobs do I need to get to be able to support that kind of a payroll? So even though I knew as a guy, like when I started my business, I was knocking on doors. Just, hey, I see, you've got this problem with your siding or your windows or your roof, and I can help you with that. Even when I sold my first job, it was at a margin that would have been a margin of a company that was doing $7 million a year and had a production manager, sales manager, ops manager, marketing manager, PM, all these different people. So as you said, as long as I could be consistent in selling and getting those jobs into my production pipeline, I knew the gross profit dollars were there to start hiring those people as quickly as I could.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me, what was the first hire that I had? And I said, the thing I hated the most. And it was knocking on
the thing
doors.
I wasn't good at. Yeah. I didn't like to do.
I hated knocking on doors. And so literally I sold my first job and I knew how that was going to carry us cash wise. And so I hired a door knocker literally the very same week that we produced that first job. Mm-hmm. And I knew what other jobs I had in my pipeline, and I knew that cash was going to keep coming, that I could support that payroll. Yeah. And you just keep spinning that wheel, man. Right.
I feel like everyone being a contracting company is similar to a restaurant, like we talked about on a different call. We're playing business on hard mode, right? There's a lot of easier businesses out there to run than a contracting company. But when you turn the end result into a math equation and you can reverse engineer that consistently, it's a cheat code. Like if you do know how much gross profit you need to bring in, and you know your average job size, and you know your cost per lead and your lead to estimate ratio and your success rate off of that percentage, what are you scared of, right?
The numbers are a black swan event.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie, right? And that was our biggest thing when we first started was we didn't have the historical data to make educated guesses.
That's tough.
And that was the toughest part, because we're sitting here like, well, shoot, we're a $3-4 million company. It's only been 12, 18 months. I don't have what happened 5 years ago at this time with a similar, situation that happened in the market. I don't have that reference. Now that we do, I think we're setting ourselves up for success. But when you're first starting, you just got to break down what your company needs to live and what you need to take home, put it in a math equation, and just put it on repeat.
That's it. And that's why I go to in the online academy that we have, like the first video is your why. The next video is, what lifestyle do you desire for your family over the next 3 years? Get a number, right? We talk about, if you're going to, one guy told me, I want to be able to fish whenever I want to fish and still have the business do its thing, right? And I said, well, there's a big difference between grabbing a flat bottom bass boat and dragging it over to a pond or something and going fishing in there versus fishing off the southern tip of Africa with, a 100-foot yacht, right? So little different financials there.
Get a little clearer.
Yeah, a little clearer vision. And so then the next thing is running the business. That's the title, running the business by the books. Mm-hmm. And everything works in order. So I'm telling people, once you understand why you're doing what you're doing and what you desire as an outcome for your family and how the business can support that, then you better start figure out how to run this business by the books and by the numbers, because all those production plans and sales plans and marketing plans aren't going to mean squat if you don't know how to measure those against the outcome that you're looking for.
100%. And you have a responsibility, if you're going to bring employees on, to be a responsible owner. Like if you're just winging this thing and you want to, bring on 5, 10, 15 employees, they have families, they're relying on you to know your shit in order to provide for them. So like it's just a core elementary basis that you need to have when you want to grow your business. Now, if you want to be a one-man show, make 100,000, 150,000 a year, be in the field,
Go for it.
do it. I always tell guys too, like, you don't, like, I have a buddy who, actually I approached with KHB before my existing business partner. Cause him and I worked at the same job. We quit the same month. We both got our license like around the same time. And I was like, dude, like, we could do this together. I've had this business model. I already wrote things out. Like, I'm ready to go. He was a better craftsman than I was in the field as far as carpentry. It would have been great. Him and I knowing what I know now, we would have been button heads way back.
I was going to say, man, though, you know, it turned out the way it was supposed to turn out, right? A divine intervention there at some level.
100%. But he took the route of, he's going to be an owner operator. You know, he makes great money. He makes mid six figures a year, doing remodels, deck work, a little bit of everything, you know, and he's content. And I'm like, dude, there's like, you don't have to do what I did. Like, what you're doing is great for you and your wife. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's understanding again, that clear picture of, well, there's a guy that I know, he's got a $10 million business and he is a PM. Mm-hmm. So he hired a CEO. He's the president of the company. But I've been in meetings where that CEO is giving him the business for not handling some things he needed to get handled. And then we go into another meeting and he's talking about, you know, what the next 2 quarters will look like and what he'd like his team to accomplish for the company. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, like, why do you do? He's like, I just love, I'm a craftsman. I'm a trades guy. He's like, I don't want to build business. I don't want to run business. I want to be out in the field watching these beautiful projects get stood up, watching something, you know, nothing turn into something. And he's like, that's what I'm passionate about. I said, what else are you passionate about? He says, collecting those quarterly distribution checks. He says, I really like those.
For real. Yeah. Yeah. I think at some point you have to fill in your weaknesses, man. Yeah. You have to put people
and humble,
in place.
like you talked about the partnership part, being humble, right?
Yeah.
And that, to me, that I think that is one of the most inspiring things that I've seen, is because to do that, he has to be so incredibly humble and have an immense amount of trust for the people that he's put in those leadership positions. Yeah. That's hard, man. Cause we, you know, some of us want to stand at the top of the mountain sometimes, right?
Well, and a lot of us just want to white knuckle this thing to the bank. You know, we just mm-hmm. can't let go of our baby. That's one of my biggest issues. Because at some point it's a risk, right? It's a risk that you have to take if you want to get to the next level. A good dude that talked about this at a conference I was at was Tommy Mello. He's not the CEO of his company anymore. They do a little over 200 million a year. And he was like, there's people better at this than I am, but I'm really, really, really good at acquisition. I'm really good at those meetings and being at that table, but I can't run a $200 million business. Like, I don't have experience doing that. You know, that's not for me. And I mean, just having the humility.
Why he has a $200 million business.
That's why you're there, right? Because you'll understand that you're not the guy for that job.
Yep. That's tough, man. That's tough sometimes. We'll tell people, you know, make a list, do a time audit of all the things that you do in the course of a week. And next to that, on like a spreadsheet in the next column, put down the title of who traditionally would handle that task or responsibility, you know, production manager, project manager, admin, sales manager, marketing guy, and identify what you really love to do in a week's time, what you're really good at, and the things that you don't love or you're not good at, those are your next hires.
Yep. Right.
Start focusing on getting those people into your business to then free you up of time to be able to do things that build the business, or to do things you love to do with your family, whatever it is, it's your time, right? You get to choose what to do with it. And for some people, that concept's like, man, I never really thought about just breaking it down into a little step, you know?
Yeah.
It's super fun watching things happen.
If I could have my dream week, it would be wake up, go on a walk, go on a jog, take the dogs, maybe the kids. MC Dave and I go run on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So we went on a 2-mile run this morning.
Overachiever, I'm trying to hear that.
We're in fat camp, you know. We gotta go run.
Well, sign me up. I'll be on your poster.
I would wake up every morning, 5:00. I would work out for an hour, 2 hours. I would come into the office. I would talk about content, creatives, what videos are coming up, what we can shoot. And then I would just network the rest of the day. I would set up 2 or 3 different coffee, lunch appointments and just talk to other industry professionals, bring in their business to our business, mostly designers, architects, all that good stuff. And that's the stuff I really just love in hearing people's stories and talking about their businesses and how we can help them. Because even these designers, architects, engineers, they all have a problem. And
oh, sure, they're running business just like we are, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone has issues. But, what my week really looks like is tomorrow morning, I'm driving out to a project to look at a cabinet issue because I was a salesperson on the job, but I'm also the owner. So they want to talk to the owner about why the chip in the paint keeps happening. And then, I'm going on a sales call and then I'm following up with homeowners. And then I'm going to do a little bit of creatives and do some of the things I really like to do in Blender, Unreal, start learning some new skills. But then Friday, I get to go golfing, right? With another owner, another business owner. So, I mean,
it's not all bad, right?
No, but you do got to prioritize what you like to do and what you're strong at. And unfortunately, until you hit a certain point, you got to kind of just grind through that suck and do it best you can.
Yeah. And that's, I think for the guys that are in the course, I think everybody's some level, like even you're scaling your business and learning things along the way. And there's some things that probably aren't super fun. Right. And I have to remind guys, like we signed up for this stuff though. Don't act like any of this stuff is a surprise all of a sudden. Like, where is all of this coming from? And it's so hard. And why is it this way? Like, we're entrepreneurs. Like, we signed up, we took that mission on, and now they tossed us out of the airplane. We parachuted in, we landed, and now it's mission on. And if you don't complete the mission, you ain't gonna make it back out. Right? That's it. And there has to be a level of acceptance of the level of tenacity that it takes to get something accomplished and get out on the other side of things. I think I put a post up, Caitlin put a post up and it said something to the effect of, hey, if you're checking out for the weekend, don't expect the results that you have in mind to actually come to fruition. Right. And reasonably enough, people posted like, hey, family life's important and a lot of work-life balance and all of that. And I agree with them as well. I almost
commented on that too.
Did you? Are you going to put the same thing like, oh, hold on a second, bro, I got to go for you?
I don't believe in balance at all. I'm pretty polarizing on that. I don't believe there is a balance because like you said, we signed up for this, right? And like, of course your family takes precedence. Like in my life, it goes God, family, KHB. If my son's sick or I need to do something, I need to take him to karate, whatever it may be, pick her up from school, I do what I got to do. But no, if someone calls her on the weekend, the answer. If there's something that needs to be done, it needs to get done, and it's not a Monday problem.
Yep. We are the CEOs. We are the owners of the business. Very rarely does something come up to our level through the different chains and channels, unless it is the most exacerbating, difficult thing the company's going through at the moment. We don't get the easy stuff. The easy stuff is handled by everybody else that we put in place. We get the crap sandwich. Right. And we have to eat it and enjoy it. Right. And that's just the reality. So when those things happen, don't be surprised by them. This is part of the gig. And I remember my wife walked in, it was 3:00 in the morning and I had my head down and I was crying. Like I wasn't man sobbing, but I just had these little puddles that were forming on my desk. And she came in to see if I was alive or what I was doing at 3 a.m. And she says, why are you doing this? You're literally killing yourself. Like you're sitting there like in an emotional thing that you're going through. Like, why? And I said, because I know that if I just put the work in now, I won't have to put it in later. There'll be a time where I'm going to have financial freedom and freedom from my business. And I don't want to grind at this for 10 years. I want to go hard for 3 and then to be able to check that box and sit back and then get it on autopilot. Yep. And I said, I just need, the thing that I need from you is just have my back in whatever form that looks like. A little encouragement, a sandwich if it's 2:00 and I haven't eaten lunch yet. Just anything you can do to take something off my plate, and also an acknowledgement when I'm starting to fail you and starting to fail our family. Just a little nudge. I don't need a big thing about it. Just be like, hey, if you could spend some time, with George this weekend, that would be great. If we could set up a dinner date or something, I really like to spend some time with you. I said, outside of that, I'm going to make this thing happen.
Yeah. And notice how that was 3 a.m. Right. And that's what frustrates me a lot about people saying work-life balance. It's like, well, you're the asshole that's still sleeping until 6 a.m. Right. and then work until 9. Why don't you wake up at 3 and get home at 5 instead of waking up at 6 or 7 and getting home at 9? Because that's what's taking away your family time. And we'll talk about balance. Let's talk about sacrifice. Like if you are really putting your family.
Goosebumps when you said that, because that is the absolute truth. Is quit making, though you get me fired up and heated on this one, right? Don't tell me about all the stuff that you got going on or whatever. My office manager, I came in one day and I walked by down our hallway. We had some offices we weren't using, and I saw a light on, and I opened up the door, and it was a blow up mattress on the base, a nightstand, some like sheets that were in a little cubby thing or something. And I went, what is this? And she's like, this is for you to sleep. And I said, what are you talking about? She says, I'm watching you have discussions. You're talking to me and I'm watching you zone out and focus, and you will ramble. You're daydreaming in the middle of our conversations. And I look at the security logins. You're logging out at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're beating me to the office. She's like, that's crazy. You're going to hurt yourself or hurt somebody, or you have to sleep. So I put that there so that you can take a nap. Just lay down at 11 o'clock, whatever. Because I go home, have dinner, hang out with the kid, put everybody to bed, and then I'd bug back to the office. And I just crank. And then I go home, take a shower, change clothes, get some breakfast, high five everybody, and I'd roll back out.
Yep.
And that was it. And she's like, if you could just a power nap, something, please. And it made me realize, like, probably one, I'm going a little bit too hard when I start jabbering in the middle of a conversation with somebody, like I'm in another land somewhere. But I wasn't doing that. I wasn't missing dinner. I wasn't missing breakfast. I was still showing, hey, have a good day at school, man. High five.
Especially
like I'm still
kids.
Doing those things.
Yeah.
Right. We have the potential for so much more than we really think we have the potential for. Right. Doesn't mean you got to go crazy, but man, don't come to me and tell me that you went, got up at 8 o'clock, hit the office at 9 o'clock, we had a 2-hour lunch, and then you're going out with the buddies, hanging out tonight, and then you're wondering why your business is where you want it to be, and then you blame it on everybody else except yourself. Come on, man.
I see that way too much. I'm not a social media guy so much anymore. Like as far as like personally, I don't post.
Yeah.
But gosh, man, there's been times where I have like a novel written out. I'm just like, you know what? I'm not gonna post this.
Where you like type it all out, right? You're just like,
let me just
erase that.
Gosh,
Yeah.
Man. But I totally agree with that. My wife's biggest gripe, probably the first year and a half or so, was even when I was home, I was never home. She was like, you're never here. Like you're always checked out.
Same.
And I was like, it's just, there's just so much to do and such little time. In reality, there's a lot of time to get to where you want to go. But I think for people like us, it's just very much, it's in front of us and we have to conquer it.
A lot of the stuff that I do, man, is on social media, right? Like that's a lot of how a lot of my business gets driven and generated, and people get to know who we are in the Contractor Life Academy. And so, that's been for me a challenge. And it was interesting. My son, I was playing with him maybe a couple weeks ago, and I had my phone, and I intentionally put my phone down on the table, right? And I was just like, hey man, what's up? Blah, blah, blah. We're talking about our thing. And he reached over and he took my phone and he flipped it over. That was so like, man, goosebumps. Like that was so impactful for me that he was so aware of how much of a detractor of attention this is, of me giving him my full attention, that even the fact that I put that phone down was not enough, that he reached across the table and flipped it. And I'm like, bro, talk about being convicted.
Yeah.
Right. So, there again are things that, and I had to make a decision, right? So we talk about earlier in the conversation, process and outcome, right? We can measure process as the process is, well, I'm going to put my phone on the table, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go put it in a little box or something, or a bin on the countertop or whatever it is. But it's got to be more than that. It's got to be me stating that I have a desire to be the absolute most attentive, best father that I can be for my son. And therefore what's going to happen is that this phone and our time that we spend together the phone isn't even going to be a consideration, no matter what's going on, because that's an inner desire and a drive that I have. That's who I am and have chosen to be as an individual. And it's not necessarily a process. If I choose to be a healthy person because I want to be here for a future son, right? I'm going to choose an apple before I choose chips. I'm not going to have to think about, well, if I choose this apple, it's going to be less calories and therefore it's going to be better and then I'll lose weight. It's just, this is my choice and who I am. And I'm not perfect at that. I'm still working through that iteration, right? That growth thing that we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. It never stops. Never stops.
Man, it's tough though, because that's how we acknowledge who we are is sometimes the outcome of our business, right? We want to have a certain amount of clients, or we want to have these programs, or we want to have this revenue model, or we want to do this or that. And when it doesn't come to fruition, we've got to do more, right? Do more, push more, work harder, work longer hours, do all of these things. And I talked to a guy the other day. He's doing $3 million in business. He wants to get to 6. And he's talking about all these processes and things that he's doing. And in that 90-minute phone call, I'm like, bro, you're good. You'll hit $6 million. If not this year, definitely by the end of next year. Mm-hmm. He's like, how? I'm like, if you just change these two things, right? Change the way that you intake leads and make some adjustments in your sales process. And he's a numbers guy. So we ran the numbers and he's like, holy cow.
I think I know what you're talking about.
He's like, I've been over here doing this whole thing over here and pushing against this and la, la, la. And I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, here's where the problem's at. And he's like,
yeah,
right. Sometimes it's right in front of us, man. We can't see it.
Yeah. And it is just trial and error. We actually just did that same thing. We revamped our sales process to be a true design first model.
Yeah.
And this is
Which
probably
I truly believe in. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. This is probably our first month doing that. We have sold 5 designs in the past 2 days.
And I bet your conversion from design to builds on lock, right?
It was 90%. Mm-hmm. Because we did this only on large structural projects before, where it's like, hey, I actually can't give you an estimate because there's so many different ways to slice this pie, depending on what design comes out to. So we would sell $8,500 design build package over the phone. And we go out there, collect check, start architectural, start interiors, get it off engineering, have a full set of condocs, and then give them a proposal.
Yeah.
But now we're doing that even on the smallest of bathrooms, right? Mm-hmm. Like, because there is discrepancy between our estimate and our proposal, and it's adding 2 weeks to our sales process. It is building confusion in the homeowner of what was estimated versus what's actual.
Right.
It's price shopping us off an estimate that has a lot of assumptions of what's going to happen.
I mean, it's not even real. I mean, until you really get things locked down, it's just
dust. It's not a real number.
Fluff in the wind, right? That's
freaking fake. So yeah, we completely changed that. And one, it's such a lower barrier of entry for homeowners, and it's such an easier sale for our salespeople. It's so much easier selling a $4,500 project than a $450,000 project. We don't make any money on the design. We're getting in there, and I'm really excited to see how much uptick this puts in production. Because right now we're running 6 to 8 projects. I think we're going to be running 8 to 10 with another 8 to 12 in the queue on a backlog. Hopefully by
what made you decide that you wanted to change your process, and then 2, that you decided that's the point in which you were the sales journey? That was the point, selling to design, that you were going to change. What was there, a conversation, or what happened with that?
Well, it was really going through previous projects, especially ones that we lost or we put as lost, no opportunity. Yeah. One, I'm a big believer in time kills deals, right? If I can be there on site, spit out a price right then and there, and present a decision for a homeowner and a solution with either a good, better, best type of situation or a clear next step, it's always going to be better. Whereas before, we would give that ballpark on site. One, over the phone, historically, this is what we're looking at. That's not appropriate to you. Great. Here's our schedule. Let's book it. We go on site, reaffirm that number once we see it in person, set an expectation on when we have a price to them, bring them into our office, present the estimate, have our designer there, book design, $1,000 deposit. Design happens for 5, 10, 15 days, however big the project is. Right. And then we resend out the design to all of our sub-trades that we already got a bid from originally. So they're doing twice the work, basically crafting our estimate into a proposal and then presenting that proposal again. And I was just sitting here and I'm looking at our pipeline. I'm like, dude, I have 2.2 million in estimates signed that I can't get the freaking production because they're in design. It was so frustrating, and I can't invoice them. I can't do anything with them. It's just 2.2 million just sitting there, just hanging
sitting,
out,
man, just spinning. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And my forecast looks great. My trend, I'm trending at like 10 to 12 million sold. I'm like, dude, we're freaking rock stars, but it doesn't mean anything if it's not in our bank account. You know,
yeah, you got to produce it.
Got to produce it. And so it was just a really clunky, long life cycle. And it left us vulnerable to competitors as well. Because they would get our estimate and then they get 3 or 4 other estimates, and then they would all be different. There'd be 5 different price points. And I started telling homeowners, I'm like, well, this guy that said it's 15,000, like he's right. The guy that said it's 50,000, he's right too. Mine at 45, I'm right too, because you don't know what the hell you want.
Right.
And all
how
these
do you
guys,
make a basis of comparison and really choose somebody, right? At the end of the day,
and that's the value proposition. Hey, you're getting 4 bids. You need to make sure that you're getting accurate bids. You need to make sure that you are going to get the product you want and you have a great experience with any contractor you go with. And so this is a separate agreement. This is your property at the end of design. And then we will also give you an accurate proposal cost. But then by the time they get done with that process, the trust is built, the process is there, the communication, and they're like, well, who's a better contractor to fulfill this scope of work than the contractor that designed it?
100%. And think about the process. Like, they're not going to go through the design process with all of these other guys. They already have everything there. Now they're using that as the basis of apples and oranges. So those other design build firms don't get the opportunity to build relationship like you've been able to build relationship. You have a step in the process, a leg up on all those other competitors that nobody else is going to be able to establish.
And it automatically
the beautiful thing
undercuts
about
those other guys.
What's that?
It undercuts. So the contractors that aren't design build, that are, going to Home Depot, buying the clearance vanity and, grabbing some tiles off the rack, it puts those guys on notice, because those guys show up and see our design and they're like, shoot, this isn't a $15,000 bathroom. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not even comparable, but anyways, go ahead.
The thing I love about the selling to design is, and I've had some pushback on this, good or bad, whatever, but it's easier to scale salespeople because they don't necessarily have to know all the ins and outs of all the construction side. And that's what I hear a lot. Like, how am I going to find somebody to go out and estimate for me because they don't know as much as I do? And how do I find those guys? And they either got their own companies or this or that. I'm like, what you have to do is get somebody out there that is going to take this person's vision of what they're wanting for that space and turn it into this compelling picture of a new future. Get them so excited about the potential of how this is going to change the way they live in that space, how their family and friends and people that they invite into it are going to enjoy it, that they want to actually see that on paper. They want to see a rendering. They want to see some drawings. They want to see it come to life. As long as they can acknowledge, I think you guys are solid people. Ryan, I love you. I think KHB sounds like a really solid company. Great. Well, then let's put something together that you guys can actually visualize. You can see the drawings. We can line item exactly what's going to happen. You can get a mood board. We can put this together and then finally make a decision of this is what truly you desire for this space. And they go, you know what? You're absolutely right. How much do you need for that? Yeah. Right. And then you can push it off to the team, and the team can go through the process of understanding all or the mechanicals and what situation you're going to have there and all the different things that have to happen. And guess what he's doing? That guy's off selling another design agreement. Yep. And he's doing a couple of those appointments a day. Yeah.
It is highly scalable. And when that design comes back, we standardize our design process to be a 8-page set of condocs for any project. The smallest bathroom, like every page is standardized. So the guys in the field have consistent construction documents, whether it's a bathroom remodel or a home addition, they have consistent documents. But 2, we have a full set of condocs that now all the details and notes and our little architectural bubbles describe everything that salesperson needs to know. 1, to talk to trade partners, get accurate pricing, and 2, how to have the proposal be congruent with our condocs. So then proposal, contract, condocs, all speaking the same language. And it's very, really just cohesive for the homeowners and for our operational team. So it translates a lot easier as well, doing design first. One of the big issues we have right now, working with homeowners who already have their architectural, have their engineering, have a permit in hand, and then they're coming to us, but they have no materials. And then we start doing the selections process and 3D renderings and mood boards and everything else. And now our design doesn't reflect the architectural. And now we're having to do addendums to the permit and submit to the city and change
and it's almost like you're taking over the entire process all over again, right? They've done all this work and they've done all these things. And it's like, that was great, good on you, high five. But guess what? It doesn't mean anything because now everything based that's all got to change. We got to go through that whole process again. Yeah.
Yep. And homeowners are like, well, I got a permit. I got condocs in hand. I'm like, you're like maybe 2/3 of the way there. There's still a little bit of runway here to get this operational. Yeah.
Now, I think, going back to the conversation we were having about consistency and talking about scaling sales guys to estimators to go out and sell to design, I think people forget the opportunity of having these individuals that they're building these teams spend time with the different departments. Mm-hmm. Right. So when we bring on a sales guy, that sales guy has to go spend time in the call center. They have to go spend time with our Canvas team. They have to go spend time out watching a job get produced and go have lunch with the installers and the subtrades. They have to spend time in the production department. They have to spend time with their office manager and some of that post-job wrap up and what that looks like. Because ultimately, when they show up to a home, and this is for any department, when there's a communication aspect with the client, we all need to be speaking the same language. Mm-hmm. And that really hit with me one time when we always ask at the end of our conversations, when a client gets on contract with us, what made you decide to go ahead and choose our company to move forward with this project today? And one of the things we heard is from the time that the person knocked on my door to when we got on your website, the person called us and set up the appointment. You showed up, went through the conversation. Everything has been absolutely consistent. The conversations, the way you guys are personality wise, right? Just the culture, like everything's been super consistent, and we haven't seen that with other people. Mm-hmm. And that's and guess what they very rarely talk about is the price. And I'll tell the sales guys, if people are telling you it's because of the price, or the product or the program or the discount, we've done something wrong. Yep. We have to shift that focus outside of what the dollars are on that piece of paper, because ultimately, if they desire to work with our company, they believe in who we are and what our core values are, what our mission is, and how we're taking their vision and turning it into our mission, they'll give us what we need to make that happen. Right. That'll be a secondary consideration. I know people are going to tell me, well, that's bull crap when it's $150,000, $250,000, but I'm still going to push against that every single time.
Honestly, truthfully, selling a $600,000-$700,000 project is oftentimes easier than selling a $35,000 bathroom.
Man, and I found too that those clients are the easier to work with.
Oh gosh.
You would think that, some people are like, oh, those people are probably kind of bougie and they're real particular and all of this stuff. And I'm like, I think it's the opposite, man. I think they're just so dang laid back. Like, they're like, you know what? Problem solution. I trust you guys. You'll figure it out. Right. Mm-hmm. You're going to get the crazies here, but the ones I find that have those lower price points, that $30,000 is more money that they've ever been able to put together at one time in their lives, and they're handing it to you, and they're in complete panic that something's going to happen. Because here's the other thing: when something goes wrong, they don't have the money to fix it.
Yep, and everything's amplified. Everything's amplified because there's a strong emotional connection to that money. I found, like, I've told people when they're usually, like, financing is a great option. It's a great way to get people to move forward. Yeah. But I tell homeowners, like, if you have to finance this project and this is a strictly luxury type of renovation, what's going to hurt you, waiting a year, waiting 2 years, and just actually having some more security. Because, I mean, we do have a no change order guarantee. We do have we now are offering a no markup guarantee. But with those things, like, you should not be putting your life savings into your kitchen when you already have a kitchen. At some point, like,
that's a great point. Yeah. 100%.
Guys, like, I would love to do your project, but it's going to be a headache.
If you're entering out your 401k to make this happen, there's a bigger thing that we need to talk about, right?
That's a character flaw, right?
But I think it goes back to consistency too, right? Like, we've all heard the clients that have said, well, you don't know how much money I'm spending here. And you know how much I'm paying you to do this work. And, our response is, Joe, it doesn't matter if this is a $250,000 project or a $25,000 project. The journey that we take our clients on is consistent every single time.
Yep.
That number on the contract at the end of the day doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it might be a more complexity, higher end fixtures and finishes and textiles, whatever it is. But the journey we take people on, it's consistent. That doesn't mean anything to us. If there's a problem with the journey, we're going to fix that. We're going to tend to that. But it's not because of what's on the contract.
Yeah. And it has to be. And that's the only way to have a scalable business. Repeatable, teachable, valuable, repeatable. Has to be that.
Yeah, the guys will. We talk to guys about bolting things onto their business, and the challenge that they find is they get overwhelmed by the concept of what they have to do to bolt it on, right? So whether it's like doing a cash flow projection or creating a budget, or we talk about training, right? Hey, before you get Ryan into place to go out and do these things, start to put together what type of training you want him to do. Have something that you can put into his hand to help guide him through a training process. Don't just throw him out there and be so grateful that now you don't have to do that work. Ryan can do it.
Yeah.
Right. Have that. And they think, oh my gosh, how am I going to do that? I don't even know how to do that. I don't even know what to do. And most of the time, what people don't realize, number one, you're already doing it yourself. It's not much more work to grab this phone, set it up on a little tripod over on a wall somewhere. And as you're going through the process of doing whatever I need you to do, just record it and talk into your earbuds or your AirPods, right? If you're doing something where you have to input leads, or you're building out a proposal or ordering material and you're online, get a Loom video. Just record what you're doing and talk about what you're doing. And guess what? Before you know it, you're going to have all the training that you need.
Yeah.
Right? Document the journey and you'll build your business.
I see these things about like SOPs and stuff. And like, we're really big on process as well. And we have an SOP for, just about how to tie your shoes in the morning. But people are so scared about building SOPs or how to build us. And it's literally just that. What is something that you do repeatable? Like that's repeatable on every single project. You have to do it and just list it out as a fifth grader would read, and it really is. And there's so much technology now that makes it sense. When we first started, I didn't know about Loom. I didn't know about all these different templates. And like, I was just on Google Docs, just writing out how I did things.
He's back.
Oh yeah. We lost a little connection.
I was hoping I could screenshot that somehow, because that was a great look for you. That would have been real great. That would be good.
Well, man, I'm actually, we can button up if you'd like. I know you got a day to go to.
We can pop up. It's good stuff, man. Good talk today. Good conversation.
Yeah, good call. And I'll be seeing you on Friday.